Title: The Tower of the Sky and the Book of Seals. In the heart of a vast and endless land, there stood a towering structure that pierced the clouds. It was called the Tower of the Sky, a majestic, ancient creation, shrouded in mystery and legend. No one knew its origins or purpose, but all knew its power was unlike anything else in the world. The tower was said to hold secrets lost to time, waiting for the right person to unlock them. Beneath the tower, a city lay, bustling with life. The people lived their lives, unaware of the great power above them. Yet, in secret, whispers of a prophecy began to spread, a prophecy that spoke of a book of seals, a mystical tome that could either save or destroy the world. And within its pages was the key to unlocking the true power of the Tower of the Sky. The prophecy foretold that only the chosen one could find the book of seals and face the trials hidden in the tower's many layers. Whoever could master the trials would gain the power to change the fate of the world. But the path would be perilous, and the price of failure was unimaginable. For centuries, many had attempted to scale the Tower of the Sky, but none had succeeded. The tower seemed to test all who dared to approach, and those who reached the top were never seen again. The Book of Seals, it seemed, was lost to time, or perhaps it never existed at all. But fate has a way of guiding the right person, and on one fateful day, a young traveler named Elysia appeared in the city beneath the tower. She had grown up with tales of the tower, and something within her heart called out to the challenge. She was determined to uncover the secrets hidden within its walls and to find the Book of Seals. Elysia's journey to the Tower of the Sky began with a quiet sunrise, the golden light casting long shadows across the land. She packed only the essentials: food, water, and her father's old map, which hinted at hidden passages in the tower that few knew about. She traveled for days, her heart filled with anticipation and a sense of destiny. As she approached the base of the tower, she could feel the weight of its ancient presence. The stone walls loomed above her, and the air felt thick with power. At the entrance, a single door stood, adorned with intricate carvings of mythical creatures and symbols of forgotten times. Elysia reached out and touched the door, and it creaked open as if welcoming her into the unknown. Inside, the tower was vast and silent. The walls were lined with carvings and paintings, depicting ancient stories of kings, queens, and warriors who had once walked the land. Yet, there was no sound, no sign of life. Only the quiet hum of the tower's strange energy. Elysia took a deep breath and began her ascent. The first trial was one of courage. As Elysia climbed higher, the air grew colder, and the path became steeper. The walls seemed to close in on her, but she pressed on. She had heard the rumors that the tower could make you doubt your very existence, could turn your fears into reality. But Elysia refused to give in. At the top of the first staircase, she found herself facing a vast, empty room. In the center, a stone pedestal stood, and upon it rested a glowing crystal. The light from the crystal seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Elysia stepped forward, but as she did, the shadows in the room began to twist and form shapes. Phantoms of her past, her family, her friends, her lost loved ones. "You are not worthy," the shadows whispered. "You will never succeed. You are too weak." Elysia's heart raced, but she closed her eyes and remembered the stories she had heard. Her father had told her that fear was just an illusion, and that true strength came from within. She reached for the crystal, her hands steady. The shadows vanished, and the room was silent once more. After many trials, each more difficult than the last, Elysia reached the top of the tower. There, in a grand chamber bathed in celestial light, she found a stone altar. On the altar lay the Book of Seals, its cover adorned with ancient symbols and intricate designs. The book seemed to hum with power, as if alive. Elysia approached the altar, her hands trembling. She knew that this was the moment. The prophecy had come true. The Book of Seals was real. As she opened the book, the pages revealed secrets of the universe, forgotten spells, prophecies, and powers that had been sealed away for millennia. But with each word she read, Elysia could feel the weight of responsibility upon her shoulders. She now held the power to change the world, but such power came at a cost. The book's final page was blank, save for a single line. The world is what you make of it. Elysia understood. The true power of the Book of Seals was not in its knowledge, but in the choices it allowed. The future of the world rested in her hands. As Elysia closed the book, the room began to tremble. The tower itself seemed to be alive, reacting to the awakening of the ancient power. She could feel the magic of the book surging within her, and she knew that she had to make a choice. Would she use the power to bring peace to the world? Or would she succumb to the temptation of ultimate control, reshaping the world as she saw fit? The decision was hers alone. Elysia stood in the center of the chamber, the Book of Seals in her hands. Outside, the sky was vast and endless. She looked out at the world below, a world filled with both beauty and chaos. And then, with a deep breath, Elysia made her choice. Elysia's heart beat faster as she made her decision, her fingers lightly resting on the pages of the Book of Seals. The choice she had made was not an easy one. She had understood the great temptation that came with the book's power, the possibility of reshaping the world to fit her vision, of controlling its destiny. But in that very moment, she realized the true essence of the prophecy. The world wasn't meant to be controlled. It was meant to be lived, to be nurtured, to be allowed to evolve naturally. With a steady hand, Elysia closed the Book of Seals, sealing its power once more, and placed it carefully on the stone altar. The book's glow dimmed, as if acknowledging her decision. The tremors that had once filled the tower began to settle, the energy surrounding her returning to a serene stillness. Elysia stood in the chamber, feeling the weight of her choice lift from her shoulders, replaced by a sense of clarity and peace. As she descended the tower, the path that once seemed insurmountable now felt familiar. The trials she had overcome were not simply tests of strength and wit, but of her very heart. She had been tested, not only by the tower, but by herself. And through her determination, she had found the one thing that no book, no power, could grant: wisdom. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, casting the world below in golden hues. Elysia stood at the foot of the Tower of the Sky, gazing at the horizon. The city in the distance seemed peaceful, unaware of the monumental journey she had just undertaken. Yet, she knew that her journey was far from over. Though she had returned the Book of Seals to its resting place, the lessons she had learned would stay with her forever. She realized that the greatest power was not in the ancient tome, but in the choices made each day, in the kindness shared, in the love nurtured, and in the strength to choose peace over destruction. Elysia walked through the streets of the city, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She had come here seeking the Book of Seals. But now, she carried something far more important: the wisdom to live a life true to herself, and the courage to guide others. Her first step was to share what she had learned. She began telling the stories of the tower, the trials, and the book, not as a legend of power, but as a tale of balance. She spoke of the importance of understanding one's own heart, of listening to the quiet whispers within that guide each of us toward the right path. The people of the city listened, captivated by her words. Elysia's journey had changed her. The once uncertain traveler was now a beacon of hope and wisdom. And as the seasons passed, her name became known far and wide, not as the one who had conquered the Tower of the Sky, but as the one who had discovered the true meaning of power: the power of choice, of change, and of embracing the unknown with an open heart. The Tower of the Sky still stood, high above the city, watching over the land. It no longer seemed like an ominous structure, but a silent guardian of knowledge, waiting for the next traveler, the next seeker, to find their own path. And somewhere, deep within the tower, the Book of Seals rested, its pages quietly turning with the winds of time. Its secrets remained untouched, not because they were locked away, but because they were meant to be found by those who sought them, not for power, but for wisdom. And as long as the tower stood, and the Book of Seals remained, the world would always have its guardians, those who understood that true power lies not in control, but in the choices we make, and in the hearts of those who dare to follow their dreams. Years passed since Elysia had returned from the Tower of the Sky, and the world had flourished in ways that few could have imagined. The city at the foot of the tower became a center of learning and peace, with travelers from distant lands arriving to hear the stories of Elysia's journey. Her words spread far and wide, becoming a beacon for those who sought wisdom, truth, and peace. But even as the city blossomed, Elysia could never shake the feeling that her journey was not yet complete. A quiet whisper echoed in the back of her mind, a call that seemed to come from the stars themselves. It was a feeling that she could not ignore, for it was the same feeling she had experienced the day she first stood before the Tower of the Sky, ready to uncover its secrets. One evening, as the night sky shimmered with countless stars, Elysia stood outside her home, gazing upward. The stars seemed brighter that night, their glow pulsating in a rhythm she had never noticed before. And then, as if in response to her gaze, a soft breeze stirred, and a voice, gentle yet firm, whispered her name. Elysia. The voice was not of the earth, but of the very heavens above, calling her once again. The moment the breeze brushed her face, she knew it was time to return. The Tower of the Sky had more to reveal, and the Book of Seals was not the end of her journey, but merely the beginning. The whisper spoke of a new trial, one that could not be foreseen, and one that would test not only her strength and wisdom, but the very heart of the world itself. The stars had chosen her, and the time had come to answer their call. Without hesitation, Elysia gathered her belongings, just as she had done so many years ago. The map, worn and faded, was still in her possession, though now she carried it not as a guide, but as a symbol of how far she had come. Her path, though uncertain, was one she would walk with courage, as she always had. The road to the Tower of the Sky felt different this time. It was no longer a daunting climb, but a pilgrimage, a journey toward a higher purpose. The sky seemed to open up before her, as if the very heavens were welcoming her back. As she ascended the familiar stairs of the tower, the air grew colder, the winds harsher. But Elysia did not falter. She had faced trials before, and she knew that this new journey would test her in ways she had yet to imagine. At the top of the tower, instead of the serene, quiet chamber where the Book of Seals had once rested, a new presence filled the space. The air was thick with energy, and the walls shimmered with a strange, celestial light. In the center of the room stood an ancient altar, different from the one she had seen before. Atop it was a new artifact, unlike anything she had ever seen, a star-shaped crystal, pulsing with a light as bright as the sun. Elysia approached the crystal, her heart racing with anticipation. As she reached out to touch it, the room shifted, and suddenly, she found herself standing in an entirely different place. The tower was gone, replaced by a vast, endless sky stretching far beyond her sight. She was standing on the edge of a floating island, surrounded by swirling clouds and sparkling stars. A voice spoke, clear and powerful, resonating from all around her. Elysia, you have returned. You have proven yourself worthy of the wisdom of the Book of Seals. But now, you must face the final trial, the trial of the cosmos. The stars above twinkled, their light intensifying, as the voice continued. The balance of the universe has shifted. Darkness grows stronger, threatening to undo the harmony of the realms. You alone have the power to restore it, but the path is fraught with danger. The trial will take you beyond the limits of time and space, and you must decide what is worth the ultimate sacrifice. Elysia stood at the edge of the floating island, her heart pounding. The words of the celestial voice echoed in her mind. She had faced many trials, but this was different. This was a trial not just of herself, but of the entire universe. As she gazed out into the infinite expanse, the stars began to swirl, forming shapes and patterns that she recognized. They were the same symbols she had seen in the Book of Seals, symbols of the elements, of light and dark, of creation and destruction. They were the forces that shaped the world, and they were in turmoil. The voice spoke again. You must journey through the realms of time, through the fabric of existence itself, and find the source of the disturbance. Only then will you restore balance and save all that is. Without hesitation, Elysia stepped forward, and as she did, the ground beneath her feet dissolved into mist. She was no longer on the floating island, but in a realm where time seemed to bend and stretch, where past, present, and future collided. The journey would take her through the past, the future, and the very heart of the cosmos itself. Through each realm, Elysia faced challenges that tested her resolve, battles against shadows of herself. Encounters with beings of light and darkness, and moments of deep introspection. But with each step, she grew stronger, wiser, and more attuned to the forces that governed the universe. In the final realm, she came face to face with the source of the disturbance, a dark entity. An embodiment of chaos and destruction, whose very presence threatened the fabric of reality. The entity spoke, its voice cold and mocking. You think you can stop me? You are but one mortal, insignificant in the grand scheme of existence. Elysia stood tall, her heart steady, and with the wisdom she had gained from her journey, she knew what had to be done. I am not alone, she said softly. We are all connected. The universe lives through us, and we through it. With that, she summoned the energy of the Book of Seals, not to control, but to heal. The light of the stars, the wisdom of the ages, flowed through her, and the dark entity began to fade, its power dissolving into nothingness. The universe sighed, the balance restored. When Elysia returned to the world she knew, everything had changed. The stars shone brighter, the skies clearer, and the world was filled with a new sense of harmony. The Book of Seals, now a symbol of wisdom, was no longer needed. For the true power lay in the hearts of those who dared to seek peace, to understand their place in the vastness of the cosmos, and to choose balance over control. And so, Elysia's name became legend not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, a guide to the balance between light and dark, between the known and the unknown. Her journey had come full circle, but her story would continue, whispered on the winds. Carried in the hearts of those who believed that the true path to power was not in domination, but in understanding and love. And the stars, eternal and endless, watched over them all. Elysia stood at the heart of the world, watching as the winds of change swept across the land. The universe had been restored to balance, and the darkness that had threatened to consume it had been vanquished. Yet, despite the peace that now reigned, Elysia felt the weight of a truth that could not be ignored. The world she had fought to protect was not yet perfect. The balance she had restored was fragile, and the choices of each individual still shaped the future. The trial of the cosmos had not been an end, but a beginning, a new chapter in the story of life, of creation, and of the forces that governed the realms. Elysia's journey was far from over. In the time she had spent in the realms beyond, she had witnessed the endless cycles of existence, the rise and fall of civilizations. the birth of new stars, and the slow, steady march of time. She understood now that true peace was not a destination, but a continuous journey, one that required vigilance, compassion, and a willingness to adapt. As she stood at the edge of a vast, open field, she could feel the energy of the land, the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. The world was alive, and its story was still being written. Elysia knew that it was her place, her purpose, to help guide that story forward, to protect the delicate balance she had fought so hard to achieve. The seasons changed, and with them, the world around Elysia shifted. The city that had once been her home grew, its streets teeming with people from every corner of the world. The lessons she had learned from the Book of Seals and the cosmic trial were shared with those who sought knowledge, and soon, a new era of wisdom began to blossom. But as the world changed, so too did Elysia. She had found peace, but it was a peace that was not bound by stillness or stagnation. It was a peace rooted in movement, in growth, in the continual pursuit of understanding. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in hues of purple and gold, Elysia found herself standing once again at the edge of the field. The stars were beginning to twinkle, far above the earth, and a soft breeze ruffled her hair. She could feel it then, a familiar whisper, like the one she had heard so many years ago. It was the call of the horizon. Elysia had come to understand that her place was not to sit in one place, but to move forward, to explore the unknown and to share her wisdom wherever it was needed. The world was vast, and while the trials of the cosmos had shaped her, they had also awakened within her a deeper desire to explore the many realms of existence that still awaited discovery. Her journey had been one of self-discovery, of learning the value of wisdom over power, and of understanding that true peace was not found in the absence of conflict, but in the ability to navigate it with grace. Now, the horizon called to her, promising new adventures, new discoveries, and new challenges. The stars were not just guides, they were companions, waiting for her to take the next step on her journey. Elysia took a deep breath, feeling the wind on her face. She knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but it was a path she was ready to walk. The wisdom she had gained from her journey was her compass, and her heart would guide her through whatever came next. With one last look at the city, at the life she had built, Elysia turned toward the horizon. The path was uncertain, but the stars above shone brightly, lighting her way. She was no longer the uncertain traveler who had first stood before the tower of the sky. She had become something more, a guide, a protector, and a symbol of hope for all who sought balance in the world. The world would continue to evolve, and so would she. The story of the Tower of the Sky, the Book of Seals, and the trial of the cosmos was just one chapter in a much larger tale. Elysia understood now that the true journey of life was not about reaching a final destination, but about embracing the endless horizons, the infinite possibilities, and the boundless potential that awaited. With a sense of peace in her heart and a renewed sense of purpose, Elysia stepped forward into the unknown. The stars above twinkled brightly, as if acknowledging her decision, and the winds of the world whispered her name, carrying her forward into the vastness of the universe. And so, the eternal journey began. As the years passed, Elysia's name became known not just in her homeland, but across the realms. Her story was passed down through generations, not as a tale of conquest or victory, but as a story of wisdom, balance, and the never-ending quest for knowledge. The Tower of the Sky, though no longer the place of trial and turmoil, stood as a monument to the journey of Elysia. It became a place of reflection, where those who sought wisdom could come and look to the stars for guidance. And somewhere, high above, the stars continued to shine, watching over the world, as they always had. Elysia's legacy lived on, not as a legend, but as a reminder that the journey never truly ends. The horizon always calls, and the stars will always guide the way. Years passed, and the legacy of Elysia became a quiet but profound presence that echoed through the land. People from distant realms traveled to the Tower of the Sky, not only to learn the ancient knowledge of the Book of Seals, but to understand the true meaning of balance that Elysia had embodied. Her teachings had spread far and wide, becoming a beacon of hope for those in search of a life filled with purpose, wisdom, and peace. Elysia, now known as the Keeper of the Horizon, traveled far beyond the cities she once knew. She ventured into the unknown, seeking the vast stretches of land and sea that had once seemed unreachable. Her journeys were marked not by conflict but by understanding and connection to the people she met, to the creatures she encountered, and to the environments she discovered. Each journey was a chapter, each realm an opportunity for growth, each horizon a reminder that there was always more to learn. With every step, she learned new ways to foster peace between conflicting worlds, and in turn, the once divided lands began to unite. The wisdom of the Tower of the Sky and the teachings of the Book of Seals had started a ripple effect, and slowly, the fractured world began to heal, not through force, but through the realization that all beings were connected by the same fundamental energy, the energy of life. Though the world had come into a period of peace, Elysia understood that true harmony was not a destination but a cycle, one that must be maintained. The generations that followed her would be the stewards of this balance, and the next trials would be their own. They would need the guidance of the stars, just as she had once needed it. One evening, while gazing at the stars from her favorite hilltop, Elysia saw a young girl staring up at the same night sky. The girl was no more than 10, but there was something in her eyes, a spark of curiosity. A thirst for knowledge that reminded Elysia of herself so many years ago. The stars seemed to beckon, and Elysia knew that the time had come to pass on the torch. The girl looked up at her, sensing that the woman was different from the others. There was something wise about her, something that spoke of deep understanding. Elysia smiled, walking over to the child and kneeling beside her. "The stars are calling to you, aren't they?" Elysia asked, her voice soft and kind. The girl nodded, her wide eyes filled with wonder. "They call to all of us," Elysia continued, "but only those who truly listen can hear them." "Will I ever learn to hear them?" the girl asked. Elysia smiled, a knowing warmth in her heart. "You already do. Every question you ask, every step you take, is your way of listening. The stars are not just up in the sky. They are in you, and they are in all things." The girl seemed to consider this, and then, as if sensing the significance of the moment, she asked, "Can you teach me?" Elysia nodded, her heart full of purpose. "The journey of the stars is never ending. But I can show you the way, as it was once shown to me. Let us walk together, and I will guide you, as the stars once guided me." And so, the cycle continued. Elysia had become the teacher, passing on the wisdom she had earned through her own trials, ensuring that the future would carry the light of knowledge and balance forward. As the years passed, Elysia's journey continued, but it was no longer solely hers. The young girl, who had grown into a wise and compassionate young woman, became her closest companion and confidant. Together, they traveled the world, spreading the teachings of the Book of Seals and the legacy of the Tower of the Sky. Their teachings were not about domination or conquest, but about understanding, compassion, and balance. The world they traveled through was different from the one Elysia had once known. There were new cities, new kingdoms, and new cultures, but the underlying principles of peace, knowledge, and harmony remained the same. Elysia had realized that the ultimate purpose of her life was not to shape the world as she saw fit, but to inspire others to find their own path to balance. The stars had always guided her, but it was the people she met, the experiences she shared, and the connections she forged that had made her journey so profound. She had become not just the keeper of the horizon, but the keeper of those moments that connected all souls, regardless of their origin. And so, Elysia and her companion, the next generation of keepers, continued their journey, lighting the way for all who sought wisdom and balance. The Tower of the Sky, though it had long since become a relic of the past, was still a symbol of the eternal connection between all realms. A reminder that every journey begins with a single step, and every horizon beckons with the promise of new adventures. It was no longer a place of trials, but a symbol of the endless cycle of life. One that would continue forever, in the hearts of those who listened to the stars and sought to walk the path of balance. As the stars twinkled high above, Elysia knew that her journey was far from over. It would never truly end, for the light of knowledge, the wisdom of the stars, and the desire for peace would always guide the way. And so, the cycle of life continued, in endless waves, as eternal as the stars themselves. Though the land had been restored and peace seemed to reign, a new mystery began to emerge. The realms that had once been hidden, sealed away by the Book of Seals, began to stir once more. Far beyond the horizons that Elysia and her companion had traveled, there were whispers of forgotten lands. Realms untouched by the light, and ancient secrets still buried beneath layers of time. Elysia sensed this disturbance in the very air, a quiet but persistent pull at the edges of her consciousness. It was as though the world itself was calling her to something new, something deeper. She had felt this before, in the moments when the stars had whispered to her in her youth a call to explore, to uncover, and to understand. One day, while standing at the threshold of a vast, dense forest, Elysia turned to her companion. The young woman, now well versed in the teachings of the stars, stood with a sense of determination in her eyes. "Do you feel it too?" Elysia asked. Her companion nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "The realms that were hidden. Are they calling us?" Elysia's heart stirred. "Yes. There is more to this world than we have yet discovered." The Book of Seals was only a guide, a map for the journey. But it was never the final answer. With that, they set out toward the unknown, leaving behind the familiar lands they had once known, venturing into the realms where no one had dared to tread. As they ventured into the heart of the forest, the trees grew darker, and the air became thick with an unfamiliar energy. The deeper they traveled, the more the world around them seemed to shift. The sun grew faint, the skies dimming as if twilight had settled over the land, and the ground beneath their feet pulsed with a strange rhythm. "The world is alive," Elysia whispered. "But there are parts of it that are asleep, waiting for someone to awaken them." The path ahead was unclear, and the journey seemed endless. But Elysia felt an undeniable pull toward a distant mountain, its jagged peaks rising like silent sentinels in the distance. It was as though the very mountain itself held the answers to the mystery that called to them. As they approached the base of the mountain, they discovered an ancient temple, half buried in the earth. It was unlike anything they had seen before, its structure a combination of both light and shadow, as if it had been built in the space between worlds. "This temple, it feels ancient," Elysia murmured. "It is older than the Tower of the Sky, older than the Book of Seals. And yet, it holds the same power." Together, they entered the temple, and the moment they stepped inside, a surge of energy washed over them. The air crackled with magic, and the walls, covered in intricate carvings, began to glow with a faint blue light. Elysia and her companion moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the silence. "Do you see that?" the young woman whispered, pointing to a pedestal at the center of the chamber. On it rested a small, glowing crystal, pulsing with a soft light. Elysia stepped forward, her hand outstretched. As her fingers brushed the crystal, a vision flooded her mind. She saw the world as it had once been, before the Tower of the Sky, before the Book of Seals, a time when the realms were in chaos, their energies unbalanced. She saw ancient beings, powerful and wise, who had forged the world, but in doing so, had split it into separate realms, each holding a different part of the world's essence. But the vision did not end there. She saw the future to a time when these realms would once again collide, bringing both destruction and rebirth. The ancient beings had foreseen this moment, and in their wisdom, had created the Book of Seals to protect the world from its own cycles of imbalance. But now, the seals were weakening, and the time for awakening had come. "This crystal is a key," Elysia said, her voice low. "It holds the power to awaken the realms, to merge them once again. But it is not without its dangers." Her companion looked at her, her eyes filled with both awe and fear. "What should we do?" Elysia took a deep breath. "We must awaken the realms, but we must do so carefully. We cannot let the imbalance of power overwhelm us. This is the final test, the final trial. If we succeed, the realms will be whole again, but if we fail, the world as we know it will be lost." With the crystal in hand, Elysia and her companion traveled to the heart of the temple, where a great stone door lay hidden in the depths. The door was adorned with intricate carvings, depictions of the stars, the sun, the moon, and the four elements: fire, water, earth, and air. Elysia pressed the crystal into the center of the door, and as she did, a blinding light erupted, filling the entire temple. The walls trembled, the ground shook, and for a moment, everything seemed to stand still. The energy that had been dormant for so long surged through the temple, and the very air itself seemed to hold its breath. The realms were awakening. Slowly, the stone door creaked open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. In the center stood a swirling vortex of energy, where the threads of time, space, and magic all converged. "This is it," Elysia said, her voice steady but filled with reverence. "The point where all realms meet. We must step through, but we must be ready for anything." Together, they stepped into the vortex, and as they did, the world around them shattered and reformed. The boundaries between realms blurred, and for a moment, they were no longer in the familiar world they had known. They were in a place of infinite possibilities, a place where all things were interconnected, where the past, present, and future existed at once. As they moved through this space, they encountered echoes of the realms, echoes of civilizations lost to time, of battles fought in the shadows, and of ancient forces that had once shaped the world. Each realm was a reflection of something greater, something timeless. At the center of it all, Elysia and her companion stood before a vast, ethereal entity, a being of pure light and energy. It spoke, its voice echoing through the realms. "You have awakened the worlds," the entity said. "But with this awakening comes a choice. Will you bring the realms together in harmony, or will you allow them to fall into chaos once again?" Elysia stepped forward, her heart filled with the wisdom she had gained from her journey. "We choose harmony," she said, her voice unwavering. "We choose balance." The entity nodded, its form radiating a brilliant light. "Then you will be the guardians of the new world, the keepers of the realms. The cycle continues, but this time, it will be different." With those words, the entity dissolved into the light, and the realms began to merge once again. The world, though changed, was whole, and a new era of balance began. Elysia and her companion returned to the world they had once known, but it was not the same. The realms had merged, and the world was now a place of infinite possibility, where all beings lived in harmony. Elysia had become the guardian of the realms, the keeper of balance, and the protector of the world's infinite potential. As she stood on the horizon, looking out at the new world, she smiled. The journey had never truly ended. It had only just begun. Years had passed since Elysia and her companion restored balance to the realms. Under their careful guidance, the world had flourished, with each realm now harmoniously existing alongside the others. Where once there were barriers, now there were connections, trade, knowledge, and culture flowed freely between the realms, creating a flourishing society. Yet, the peace they had fought so hard to achieve was not without its challenges. Every realm held its own ancient secrets, some good, some dark, and the guardians found themselves constantly learning, adapting, and protecting the world they had helped create. One evening, as the two guardians stood at the edge of a great cliff, overlooking the vast expanse of interconnected realms below, Elysia spoke softly. "Do you ever wonder if we've truly reached the end of our journey?" she asked. Her companion, now a wise woman in her own right, looked out over the landscape, her gaze distant but peaceful. "I think our journey is a never-ending one. To be guardians is to protect not just the realms, but also the balance. And balance can be fragile." Elysia nodded thoughtfully. The weight of their duty was immense, but she had come to understand that balance wasn't something that could be achieved once and for all. It was something that required constant vigilance, the willingness to adapt to new challenges, and the knowledge that they were not alone in their efforts. One day, a strange disturbance echoed through the realms. It began with subtle tremors, faint whispers in the winds, fleeting shadows in the sky, and a sense of unease that settled in the hearts of the people. At first, it was dismissed as a mere anomaly, but as the days passed, the signs grew stronger. Elysia and her companion were summoned to the heart of the temple once more, the place where they had first uncovered the Book of Seals. The ancient crystal that had once guided them was now dormant, its light faded, but it still held a deep, resonating power. "The realms are restless," Elysia said, her voice filled with concern. "I fear something ancient stirs beneath the surface. Something that could threaten the balance we've fought so hard to protect." Her companion's brow furrowed. "But what? We've sealed away the forces of chaos. There shouldn't be anything left to disrupt the peace." Yet, deep in the core of the temple, an inscription that had once been unreadable began to glow faintly. It spoke of the awakening of the Forgotten One, a being lost to time, whose power surpassed even that of the ancient entities. The words were cryptic, but they hinted at an age-old entity that had once been sealed away in the realms beyond the stars. The two guardians exchanged a glance. The journey they had believed was complete was only just beginning. The Book of Seals had not only guarded the realms from chaos, it had hidden the truth. There was an entity far older than even the realms themselves, one that had been sealed away for millennia, far beyond the reach of time and space. This being, known as the Forgotten One, had once ruled over the void between realms, a place where the fabric of reality itself was thin and fragile. Now, as the balance between realms shifted, the Forgotten One was awakening, drawn by the disturbance in the worlds. Its power was immense, threatening to unravel the very foundation of reality. "We cannot face this alone," Elysia said firmly. "We must gather allies from every realm, those who understand the magic of the stars, the ancient arts, and the powers of the elements." Her companion nodded. "The forces of darkness may be awakening, but the forces of light, of unity, must rise as well." As the threat of the Forgotten One loomed ever closer, Elysia and her companion knew that the first step in combating this dark force would be to unite the realms once more. In their time as guardians, they had worked tirelessly to maintain peace and balance. But they had never faced an enemy of this magnitude, a force born from the very fabric of time itself, capable of unraveling the worlds. To begin their mission, Elysia set out to visit the rulers and leaders of each realm, each unique in its history, culture, and magic. They would need to awaken ancient alliances and rally the powerful forces that lay dormant in the heart of the realms. The first realm they visited was the Kingdom of Light, a vast land where the sky was always bathed in the golden glow of a never-setting sun. The King of Light, a wise and compassionate ruler, welcomed them with open arms. His kingdom was home to the guardians of the sky, powerful beings who controlled the winds and stars. Though the king had heard of the disturbance, he did not yet grasp the full extent of the danger. "We cannot ignore the darkness that stirs beneath the surface," Elysia said as she presented the glowing crystal they had found in the temple. "The Forgotten One is rising, and with it comes the threat of imbalance, a threat that will consume all realms if not stopped." The king's eyes darkened, and he placed his hand on the crystal. "Then I will stand with you, as I always have. Together, we will fight." The guardians of the sky, who had long watched over the kingdom, pledged their support as well, bringing with them the winds that could carry messages across realms and summon storms to protect against dark forces. Next, they traveled to the realm of Earth, a land of vast forests, mountains, and deep caverns. Here, they met the Earth Elder sentient beings who had lived for centuries, tending to the land and maintaining its balance. These guardians were attuned to the power of nature and the Earth itself. Elysia explained the growing danger, and the Earth Elders immediately recognized the signs of a disturbance that mirrored the ancient prophecies. They too pledged their allegiance, offering their strength in the form of ancient stone golems and the mastery of earth magic that could heal or destroy entire landscapes. From there, the guardians traveled to the realm of water, a place where vast oceans stretched to the horizon and mighty rivers wound through lush jungles. The water nymphs, elegant beings who controlled the oceans and the tides, had long lived in harmony with the flow of time. Upon hearing of the Forgotten One, the water nymphs rallied together. "The balance of the oceans and the winds is at risk," their leader said. "We will join you in your fight and call upon the sea creatures, the spirits of the deep, and the ancient water spirits to aid us." Finally, Elysia and her companion ventured to the realm of fire, a land where volcanoes erupted with power, and the skies were painted with the colors of endless sunsets. The Fire Lords were fierce warriors, descendants of the flame itself, who guarded the ancient forges and the primal energy that fueled the heart of the world. The Fire Lords listened with grave seriousness to Elysia's words, their fiery eyes narrowing. "If the Forgotten One rises again, then we shall bring the fury of the flame to bear," their leader declared, his voice like the crackling of embers. "Let the fire cleanse the darkness." With the forces of the realms gathered, Elysia, her companion, and their newfound allies prepared for the confrontation that would determine the fate of all worlds. The Forgotten One, though still a distant shadow, was drawing closer with each passing day. The realms had been united in ways they never had been before, their differences setting aside for the greater good. Yet, the battle ahead would not be simple. It would be a test of unity, strength, and the power of those who had chosen to stand against darkness. The guardians and their allies converged at the ancient temple, where the crystal had once opened the path to the Forgotten One's prison. Elysia and her companions stood before the temple's entrance, the final barrier that separated them from the being who had once nearly destroyed everything. "The Forgotten One will test us all," Elysia said, turning to her companions. "It will play on our fears, our doubts. But if we stand together, if we trust in the balance we've created, we will overcome it." Together, they entered the temple, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The walls seemed to pulse with an ancient energy, and as they ventured deeper into the heart of the temple, the air grew colder, heavier. The Forgotten One was near. In the deepest chamber of the temple, a massive, swirling vortex of shadow and light swirled in the center of the room, its energy crackling and writhing. At the center of the vortex stood a figure dark, twisted, and bound by chains of light. The Forgotten One. Its voice echoed through the chamber, cold and ancient. You think you can stop me? I am beyond time, beyond your petty realms. I have seen all things, and soon, all things will be undone. Elysia stepped forward, her heart resolute. You may be ancient, but we are not alone. The realms stand united, and together, we are stronger than any force of darkness. The guardians stepped forward, their powers combining. The winds howled, the earth trembled, the oceans churned, and the flames roared. Light and darkness clashed in a battle that would shake the very foundations of existence. As the battle raged, Elysia realized the true power of the Forgotten Onite thrived on fear, on the uncertainty of those who faced it. The more they feared its power, the stronger it grew. It was not merely a force of darkness, but a force of doubt. In that moment, Elysia understood what was required. The only way to defeat the Forgotten One was to face it without fear, to embrace the uncertainty and believe in the strength of the realms. She stepped forward, her voice steady. We are not afraid. The realms are united, and the light of our hearts is stronger than any shadow. Her words pierced the darkness, and with a final, mighty cry, the Forgotten One shattered into nothingness, its form unraveling in the light of unity and courage. The vortex collapsed, and the realms were saved once again. With the Forgotten One banished, peace returned once more, though a new era had dawned. The Guardians, now wiser and stronger, continued to watch over the realms, knowing that their work was never truly done. The balance they had fought for remained fragile, but with their allies and the united strength of the realms, they knew they could protect the world for generations to come. And so, as the stars shone brightly in the night sky, Elysia and her companion stood together, looking out over the peaceful world they had saved. The journey had never truly ended, it had only just begun. The echoes of the final battle still lingered in the air, but the realms were safe once again. The Forgotten One, once a looming threat of unimaginable darkness, was gone. Yet, the victory was bittersweet. The Guardians had succeeded, but they had also come to realize something fundamental: peace was not a permanent state. It was fragile and could be disrupted by the smallest of shifts in the balance. Elysia and her companion stood at the edge of the great cliff once more, their eyes scanning the horizon where the four realms met. The winds were calm now, the sun bathed the sky in golden light, and the rivers flowed serenely beneath them. But within their hearts, a new understanding had formed: peace was a continuous journey, and their role as guardians had only just begun. We won, but at what cost? Elysia spoke softly, as if the weight of the victory settled into her bones. The realms are safe, but for how long? Her companion looked out across the land, where the guardians of the sky, the earth elders, the water nymphs, and the fire lords now worked in harmony, rebuilding and tending to the needs of the realms. The cost of peace is vigilance, she replied. We must always be ready, always be watchful. But we are not alone. The realms are united in a way they never were before. And that, Elysia, is something no darkness can easily destroy. Elysia nodded. But I feel it. A ripple in the balance. A quiet stirring, deep beneath the earth. It's as if something else is waiting, hidden in the shadows. Her companion turned toward her, her eyes narrowing with concern. What do you mean? You think there's another threat? I'm not sure, Elysia admitted, her voice filled with uncertainty. But after everything we've been through, I can't ignore this feeling. There's something more. Weeks passed since their victory, and though peace seemed to have settled across the realms, Elysia couldn't shake the sense of something unresolved. Her dreams were filled with strange visions, shifting landscapes, darkened skies, and a cryptic message whispered on the wind. "The key is hidden where light and darkness meet," the voice in her dreams would say. "Only those who understand the balance can unlock it." Elysia shared her dreams with her companion, who listened intently. "The forgotten one is gone," she said thoughtfully. "But perhaps there is something older, something deeper, that we have yet to uncover." Together, they returned to the temple where the Book of Seals had once held the answers to the mysteries of the realms. The crystal, once glowing with powerful light, now lay dormant. It had been the key to unlocking the realm's safety, but now it felt quiet, almost lifeless. Elysia and her companion began to search through the temple, seeking any new clues that might explain the strange feeling of impending change. Deep within the temple, in a hidden chamber that had never been explored, they discovered an ancient door. Unlike any they had seen before, the door was made of a dark, gleaming metal, inscribed with symbols that shifted and moved like living creatures. At the center of the door was a small stone key-shaped object, but it was unlike any key they had ever encountered. It seemed to pulse with an energy that resonated with the very heart of the temple. "This must be the key from my dreams," Elysia said, her voice trembling with the weight of her discovery. "But what does it unlock?" Her companion reached out and gently touched the stone key. The moment her fingers made contact, the door began to tremble. The symbols on the metal swirled and shifted, revealing a new message: the guardian must choose to protect or to change. The door slowly creaked open, revealing a new chamber. It was vast, a hollow space that stretched into the very core of the earth. In the center of the chamber stood an ancient, glowing tree, its roots stretching deep into the ground, its branches reaching toward the heavens. "This is the tree of eternity," Elysia whispered in awe. "I've heard legends of it, a tree that holds the essence of time and space, the root of all balance in the realms." The tree glowed with a soft, ethereal light, its presence filling the air with a peaceful, yet haunting energy. "This is the source of the balance," Elysia's companion said quietly. "But why was it hidden? And what is the choice it speaks of?" Before Elysia could answer, the voice from her dreams echoed once more, this time more clearly. "The key is yours. The decision is yours. You must choose between preserving the balance as it is or risking everything for a new world. A world where light and darkness are no longer separate, but united in a way that no one can yet comprehend." Elysia felt the weight of the decision settle on her shoulders. The realms had known balance for centuries, but the idea of a new world, one where the boundaries between light and darkness blurred, was both thrilling and terrifying. Could she risk everything for the unknown? Could she create a world where all things were interconnected in ways that were never imagined before? After days of contemplation, Elysia and her companion finally understood the nature of the choice before them. The Tree of Eternity offered not just a decision, but a transformation. If they chose to preserve the balance, they would protect the existing realms, keeping them as they were. But if they chose to unite light and darkness, they could forge a new world, one where the forces of creation and destruction were no longer opposites, but part of the same cycle. Elysia stood before the tree, her hand resting on the stone key. "I can't say what the future holds," she said softly. "But I believe the realms must evolve. They must change to face what lies ahead. The unity of light and darkness. It's the only way to ensure we are truly free." Her companion nodded in agreement. "Then, let us choose the path of unity. Let us reshape the world, for the betterment of all who dwell within it." With a final breath, Elysia pressed the stone key into the tree's core, and in an instant, the world began to change. The boundaries between realms blurred, merging into one. The winds, the waters, the fires, and the earth no longer existed as separate elements. Instead, they were intertwined, a living, breathing world of balance, where light and darkness were no longer opposing forces, but partners in the great cycle of existence. The realms had merged, and the world was no longer divided. Elysia and her companion, now the guardians of this unified world, stood side by side, watching as the first rays of a new dawn bathed the land in both light and shadow. The choice had been made. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear: the journey would continue. For the balance was now not something they protected, but something they lived, something they breathed. And in that balance, they would find peace, not as a destination, but as a way of being. With the merging of the realms, a new world began to take shape. The once distinct elements of earth, water, fire, and air now flowed into one another in harmonious unity. The boundaries between realms blurred, creating a vast and interconnected landscape, where every living thing, from the smallest insect to the mightiest dragon, thrived in a shared ecosystem of light and shadow. But even in this newfound peace, the question remained: was balance truly achieved? Or was this the beginning of a new cycle? One that would test the world in ways no one could foresee? Elysia and her companion walked through the transformed world, taking in the vastness of the changes. The skies above were no longer divided by day and night, but instead bathed in a constant twilight, where the sun and the moon seemed to coexist, casting a serene glow over the land. Forests grew alongside mountains, their roots entwined with rivers that shimmered with both the light of day and the glow of the night. Creatures that once feared one another now coexisted in harmony. "The world is beautiful," Elysia said, her voice filled with awe. "But I can't shake the feeling that something else is coming. There's a shift in the very air, as if the universe itself is waiting for something." Her companion, who had become a close confidant and guide through this transformation, looked thoughtfully at the horizon. "Change is inevitable," she said. "But the question is not whether something will come, but whether we are ready for it. This world we've created is fragile. Unity is not a single moment, but a continuous journey. And the forces we've merged are still learning how to coexist." Elysia nodded, but the unease she felt deep inside was undeniable. What if the balance we've created is being tested already? What if the forces we've unified are pulling in opposite directions, even now? Weeks passed as Elysia and her companion continued their journey across the new world. They helped guide the many beings, both familiar and strange, who now called this unified world home. But deep down, Elysia's fears grew. Despite the unity, there were whispers among the inhabitants of strange disturbances. The winds no longer carried the same songs, the rivers whispered in unknown tongues, the creatures of the forest seemed restless, as if unsettled by some invisible force. One evening, as Elysia stood by the edge of a peaceful lake, she felt an unnatural ripple in the air. The calmness of the night was suddenly disrupted by a cold breeze, sending a shiver down her spine. She turned, sensing her companion nearby, but she was already at the water's edge, staring into its depths. "Elysia, do you feel it?" her companion asked, her voice low. "The unity we've created, it is being tested. Something is stirring beneath the surface." Elysia's heart quickened as she looked into the water, her reflection distorted by the ripples that spread outward. The moon, glowing brightly above, flickered for a moment before dimming. The wind howled briefly, before returning to a strange, unnatural silence. "It's not just the world," Elysia whispered. "It's the very fabric of reality itself. Something is pulling at the seams, trying to undo everything we've done." Without warning, the earth beneath them trembled. A deep, resonant sound echoed through the land, an ominous hum that seemed to emanate from the heart of the world. The water at their feet began to swirl, forming patterns that made no sense, fractals of light and shadow intertwining in chaotic beauty. We must find out what this is, Elysia said, her voice steady, but her resolve firm. If something is threatening this world, we need to stop it before it's too late. Her companion nodded. Then we begin our search. The answers may lie deep within the very core of the world we've created. The source of the disturbance was not easy to find. Elysia and her companion traveled to the deepest corners of the unified world, seeking answers wherever they could find them. They consulted the elders of the 4 original realms, who now served as the guardians of the unified world. They spoke to the wise sages who could sense the pulse of the earth and the stars, but none could provide a clear answer. Then, in the heart of an ancient forest, they met an old Sira being who was neither human nor creature of light, but a mysterious entity born of both. The seer had witnessed the birth of the unified world and had known the risks that came with such a profound shift in the balance. "You have done what many could not," the seer said, looking at them with eyes that seemed to see both past and future. "But unity is not without its challenges. Light and darkness may coexist, but they also clash. And when they clash, the fabric of reality itself is torn." "Is this the disturbance we feel?" Elysia asked urgently. "Is it the world unraveling?" The seer nodded slowly. "It is not the world itself that is unraveling, but something older, something primal. There is a force that was locked away long before the realms were divided. It has remained hidden, waiting for the moment of unity to strike. You have released a chain reaction, Elysia. And now, you must face the consequences." The seer gestured toward the sky, where the once constant twilight flickered, shifting into bursts of light and shadow. "What you have created is beautiful, but it is unstable. There is a being, a guardian of old, that must be awakened to restore the balance once more. Only then will the world find peace." The path to finding the ancient guardian was not an easy one. Elysia and her companion descended into the depths of the world through caves filled with forgotten relics and ancient magic, into the very heart of the land, where the first seeds of the world had been planted. There, in the depths, they found the Temple of Awakening, a massive, towering structure built from the bones of the world itself. Its walls were carved with symbols that pulsed with energy, and at its center lay a stone altar, where an ancient figure lay encased in crystal. "The guardian of the first balance," Elysia whispered. "This is the being who will restore the harmony between light and darkness." As they approached, the ground trembled once more. The crystal began to glow, and the figure inside stirred. Slowly, the stone shattered, revealing the form of a colossal being, half light, half shadow. A wings spread wide as it stepped forward, towering over them. "I am the guardian of the first balance," the figure intoned, its voice resonating like the merging of all the elements. "I have awaited your call. You, who have awakened the unity, now must awaken me, for only together can we mend the fabric of this world." Elysia and her companion stood in awe before the ancient guardian. They knew that the final battle, the final test of their world's future, had only just begun. That's the end of today's story. See you.